Greetings everyone, I hope you're fine. I hope you are doing well. I'm back again with another video. In this video, I would like to talk about Robert Mugabe. And I would like to appreciate you for taking this moment, this time to watch this video. I always say we may not always agree, but even if we disagree, we have to do so with respect. Robert Mugabe is one of the heroes of Africa. And I know that we may not agree when it comes to whether he was a hero or not, but we should not be manipulated by mainstream media. And again, I would like to acknowledge that there are some people from Zimbabwe who might say Robert Mugabe did not execute some of the decisions very well, or he didn't prioritize his people accordingly. And I would like to acknowledge that as well. But the reason I would like to talk about Robert Mugabe is because he was not just an egotistical leader or president, but he was also bold, confident when it comes to decision making. And I believe that he was betrayed by other countries here in Africa.
We have said, even as we acquire our land, we shall not deprive the white farmers of land completely. Every one of them is entitled to at least one farm.
So Robert Mugabe was not entirely against Western people living in Zimbabwe. He was not against those white farmers who were farming in Zimbabwe. But he was like, you cannot own, like, for an example, 10,000 hectares, one person, 5,000 hectares, one individual, as it's happening in other countries. Here in Africa, you'll find out that there's an individual who owns everything, and he's not even using the entire space. So Robert Mugabe was against such things, the high level of greediness. You have to remember that when the colonialists divided Africa, it was all about greediness. So even when it comes to dividing all these countries that they've created, they still applied greediness because they wanted to take everything. So that is why African people don't own anything, especially when it comes to the land, when it comes to minerals, because of greediness. Robert Mugabe was against that high level of greediness.
But they would want to continue to have more than one farm. More than one farm indeed. 15, 20, 35 farms, one person. These are not figures I am just getting out of my mind. They are real figures. So no farmer is being left without land. Let no one who is negative want to spoil what we are doing for ourselves in order to unite Africa. We belong to this continent. We don't mind having and bearing sanctions banning us from Europe.
This is their strategy. This is their strategy. The sanctions. If they disagree with you, they will always scare you with sanctions. So that is why I always say Robert Mugabe was betrayed by his fellow brothers from SADC and Africa in general, because at that time he needed support. So they should have came up with a strategy to say, you sanction one of us, you have sanctioned all of us. You destroy one of us, you have destroyed all of us. You touch one of us, you have touched all of us. In other words, they should have came up with this strategy. But you have to understand that Western countries are very good when it comes to creating their own puppets. It's not like they will come to you and say, be a puppet. They have to create you. They have to make you to believe in them. They have to make you to lose confidence. They have to make you to doubt yourself, to doubt your decisions. In other words, sometimes it can take time to create that particular individual. Sometimes it can take 20 years. In other words, these people are always 5 steps ahead of us. In other words, they can tell you that who is going to be the president in 20 years to come, maybe in a certain country. That's how they work, because they are always 5 steps ahead. So that is why it is very important to wake up. So Robert Mugabe was aware that Africa at that time was not yet free. So he tried by all means to defend Africa. But sometimes, if you try by all means to defend and no one is supporting you and everybody is attacking you, you will lose strength and power and you will be defeated. That is why many countries right now are scared of making bold decisions, just like Robert Mugabe, because he was not just an egotistical leader, but he was also bold and confident when it comes to making decisions. So this is the man who made decisions like nobody's business. And he made those decisions that made Western countries to be against him. So whenever these other leaders try to make such decisions, they are always reminded that you will be like Robert Mugabe or you will be like Zimbabwe. In other words, you'll find yourself being in a situation where Zimbabwe is right now. So that is why we end up being afraid to go ahead with such decisions. So that is why I'm like, I don't even understand, or I don't even know what AU, African Unity or African Union, is all about. Because instead of defending Africa, they are always aligning with Western countries. So that is why Robert Mugabe was betrayed. So even mainstream media, because mainstream media will always be mainstream media, and they are very good when it comes to exaggerating things. So that is why they've exaggerated everything about Robert Mugabe. That is why if you ask people about Robert Mugabe, they're like, this man is a dictator. This man didn't care about his people. In other words, mainstream media is very good when it comes to spreading false information. I'm not saying Robert Mugabe was a perfect man, because even if I can sit down with some people from Zimbabwe, some may say Robert Mugabe did not execute some of his decisions accordingly. So we may disagree there and there, and again we may agree there and there as well. But I just want to say this man, according to my perception, is one of the legends of Africa, is one of the heroes of Africa, because he made the decisions that many leaders are afraid to make. And according to mainstream media, he was bad. He didn't like certain people, but it's clear that he was against the highest level of greenness from those farmers.
We are not Europeans. We have not asked for any inch of Europe or any square inch of that territory. So, Blair, keep your England and let me keep my Zimbabwe.
This speech, according to me, is one of the greatest speeches Robert Mugabe has ever made, because when I was young, growing up, this is a speech that I would often hear on the radio being repeated multiple times daily. Blair, keep your England and let me keep my Zimbabwe. So this is Robert Mugabe for you, and he was telling them the truth, because there's no leader of any country in Europe who is a puppet of Africa. But we have many puppets here in Africa, and they are the puppets of those European countries, because they are always told, they are always instructed what to do. They are always instructed about the moves to make. So that is why Africa is where it is right now. I believe that should they align themselves with Robert Mugabe, should they have decided to assist Robert Mugabe, maybe Africa would be far by now. So whenever mainstream media tells you that Robert Mugabe was a bad person, look where Zimbabwe is right now, you have to be able to know what is the real problem, what is the source of the problem. So in other words, this is too deep. This is too deep. Many people have been educated to celebrate Western leaders, Western soldiers, Western presidents, and many others. And when you ask them about their own leaders. They'll tell you that so and so was not a good leader. Yes, we have puppets, but when it comes to Robert Mugabe was not a puppet, but he was betrayed by his own brothers and sisters. This is my honest perception. I don't know what you think about who Robert Mugabe is, but I believe that Zimbabwe would have been far by now had other countries aligned with it, had other countries decided to come together and say, you know what, let's defend Zimbabwe. You sanction one of us, you have done it to all of us.